Malcolm Louie here. Welcome to Eversprint.com. Today we're speaking with Anupam Satyasheel, the CEO of Occams Advisory, a fast-growing company whose advisory services help small and mid-sized businesses compete, grow, and avoid pitfalls. We'll be discussing how he grew his company's revenue from $410,000 in 2014 to $5.1 million in 2017, a 1,154% increase, and how they are on track to hit $7 to $8 million this year. Welcome to the call, Anupam.
Thank you, Malcolm. It's a pleasure.
So Anupam, how did you do it? How did you grow your company's sales so fast?
I wish I had a capsule which I could give to everybody who is listening. It is the old-fashioned set your goal, work towards it. When you falter, fix it, and keep going.
Okay. Is your growth primarily from acquiring new customers, or were you able to increase the amount of business you're doing with your existing, not customers, but clients? Was there growth coming from acquiring new clients or from getting more business from your existing clients?
We are very proud to say that in 7 years of being in business, we have almost never lost a client. So that would be logical to conclude that most of our revenue actually comes from repeat business. We would estimate this to be about 70% repeat and 30% new revenue for the last year.
Can you share how you're able to get the repeat business?
I love the question. I love that question every single time. Occams Advisory was built with the mission to provide one-stop service to our clients. We have stressed ourselves in several ways to keep on being one-stop shop, getting into areas which really were not our core competency, but we have become good enough at those areas like marketing or SEO to continue to serve our customers under one brand. Because we are so committed to not lose a client when he needs something additional, we are able to continue to have them. The reasons people have customers or clients leave them is because either they need a service which we can't provide, or the quality of our service has not been good enough, or any other combination of those. We lose some customers whenever we have to either a growth which completely made them unfit for us, or us unfit for them, or if it has been a situation where they went out of business, which I think only happened once. That company left US, they still continue to be a thriving entity overseas. So yeah, the two parts to our success. One is to be willing to stretch ourselves to provide all the services the way our customers like it. And second, of course, is to continue to ensure that we are customer obsessed to get them everything which they can possibly ask for at a quality standard which they really got used to.
Now, notice how you refer to your clients as customers. In your mind, how does a customer differ from a client?
That I would say could be a trick question. Again, not really a trick question, but somehow I relate to the word customer, and maybe it's not real. To my mind, is more like a B2C environment. Client is more like something which I think of a business which we are dealing with. That being said, I really am not fully sure if a distinction is something which we make on a daily basis. We use these words interchangeably within our company.
Okay. In regards to your new revenue, 30% new revenue, new clients, how are you finding them? How are you finding your new customers?
In the history of our company, we have not got a single customer by spending money on marketing dollars. All our revenues have come from customers, new or repeat, who we acquired through either word of mouth or by network. We are extremely good in terms of getting our existing clients to refer new clients to us. So our accountant, our CPAs, our attorneys, our existing clients, they've been very kind about referring clients to us. And I do think that the word of mouth recommendation even though sometimes called old-fashioned, is a phenomenal way of getting clients who really, really understand who we are, what we can do for them, and work with us for the long term.
Right. Now, do you have any programs in place to encourage referrals and recommendations?
We have a financial incentive we offer to people who are known to us who refer us a client. But I would say that almost never has been the reason why people refer the clients. Actually, they have referred clients because they have liked the work we did for them.
Okay. So no formal program where you might be reaching out to your partners, your vendors, your lawyers and accountants, and say, would you like to do a joint marketing program to cross-sell each other's services? Nothing like that.
No, we have discussed that in full sincerity, but we haven't really implemented that on as yet.
Right. Well, with the growth you've been seeing, it doesn't seem like you need to do it as of yet.
Believe me, we do. We do. We all need to do.
Yeah. When do you think you're going to need to start spending on marketing to continue the growth rate of your business?
We have spent money on marketing in terms of trying to build a brand. It's not a lot, but I think in 2017 we spent close to $15,000, or maybe a little more, 25 maybe, on our social media presence, on our websites, on trying to create content which we can use for our brochures and email templates and things like that.
Okay.
In terms of spending money on marketing to get new clients, I would believe that this should be something we already should be doing. We have explored various options, and most likely beginning first quarter of next year, we will be using probably closer to 2 to 2.5% of our revenue in the marketing dollars trying to get new clients.
Right. Any thoughts, ideas as to how you spend your marketing dollars next year?
Our internal thinking has been about creating content which we can share with our potential clients on free basis as they get convinced that we really know the space and we can provide the service they need. When the right time comes, I'm sure they will talk to us. So two parts. One, we keep creating content, keep sending this out to people who really care about those things, and then gently ask at some point in time that, hello, can I help you with this?
Right. Will you be generating the content in-house on your own, or will you be outsourcing that?
We will be doing it in-house. We already have been doing it in-house. We'll continue the same.
Right. What about finding the potential clients and delivering the content to them? What's your plan for that? Will it just be organic traffic that you'd be looking to get that to share the content to those who come and find your website through searches, or are you looking to do some paid traffic to have them come to your website? What's the plan there?
We have spoken to several data vendors who can provide us opt-in leads of decision makers in our target companies, which tend to be from $10 million revenue onwards till $1 billion. That approach has been limited to finding the source of data. We haven't thought as far as to really how we will ask them for business. We simply want to have a large list of people that we can send information to. It's our firm belief that if people know who we are and they like the content we create, then there's a good chance that they will ask us when the time comes.
Sure. Okay. Anupam, you talked about getting a lot of repeat business from your clients, and sometimes they might offer or need a service which your company doesn't provide. So what do you do at that point? Do you build the expertise in-house and provide the service to the client, or do you outsource it?
So our first line of thinking always is if we can do it ourselves. At the same time, for us to do it, it has to be repeatable. So to give an example, 2 years ago, we got into having in-house graphic designers and website builders. We have been able to replicate that over and over again for our clients. When they know that we do this, they typically have taken us as their new vendor or replacement vendor. Now, if we get a request which we believe that we cannot build a sustainable practice in, then we will look for the best possible vendor for them, and depending on the client's preference, either facilitate the work by being an intermediary, or simply let them connect with the vendors that we found. We have a shortlisted list of service providers that we typically take our clients to for what easily is at least 20% price break. And our objective in that regard is to be able to give our client a really good service at a really good price, and second, have that margin for us to let the client know that there's a value add by our involvement. So,
has there ever been a case when a client needed something and you just simply said no, not no outright, but decline and say, that's not something we can help you with? If yes, where is that line? Is it simply the case where it's expertise that would be too specific to that client that could never be used anywhere else, or are there other areas that your company won't go into service-wise?
The answer is that technically, yes, it has happened. One of my clients wanted to invest in cryptocurrencies, and we have an asset advisory side to our business under Occam's Wealth umbrella. Our belief as an organization has been that cryptocurrency investment is an untested area, and I don't feel comfortable in telling any of my clients in putting their money in any cryptocurrency, including Bitcoin. So through 3 or 4 different conversations, I try to impress upon him that, if Warren Buffett also says that he does not know this, and hence he won't put his money here, why do you want to put your money here? Again, it's not a directional view. It's a view that we don't know enough to ask him to put money in ABC currency. So long and short, eventually I had to say, sorry, we cannot provide you any guidance on this, on which currency you should put in, if at all. All we say is that our stand as an advisor is do not put money in cryptocurrency. It's an unproven asset class. So the answer was no, yes.
So what did your client do in that case? Did they take your advice and no longer pursue cryptocurrencies, or did they find an alternate provider to help them with it?
These 2 people have decided to stay out of the market. The third person actually went and bought some Bitcoin on his own and had a very good return for the first few months before it crashed. And then he came to me saying, you were right. I said, no, we never said don't invest. We simply said we don't know enough to invest. If you want to take a blind risk, take it. So I didn't take the credit for the guidance because we really are not saying that one should or one should not. We're simply saying we don't know enough to advise. No one can believe.
So when you're working with your clients, and you mentioned earlier how getting a repeat business is one of the core growth drivers for your company. Can you explain your process for learning what gaps they may have and how you're able to deliver the solution?
So I wish I could take credit for being that evolved in our client service process. Unfortunately, we are not. I'm painfully aware that there are gaps in our client delivery as well as our repeat service model, which can be improved. We haven't built the metrics around that. That's one area. And for that matter, overall across the business, we need to track many more things than we're tracking right now. So that's an area of improvement for us. I'm aware, obviously, it's a question of prioritization. That being said, where we score really is when our clients complain ever, then we absolutely drop everything else and make sure they're totally happy. So from sad to happy, we take them as quickly as we can so that they at least understand that their unhappiness matters a lot to us. It doesn't happen very often, but when it happens, we absolutely drop everything to make them happy. Now, that is not the best model. Sorry, just to complete that sentence, that's not the best model. One should be able to proactively anticipate what somebody can not like and prevent them from being unhappy. But it happens 2 or 3 times in a year, and we deal with that. You were saying.
Can you share an example of of one of your customers, one of your clients being unhappy about something, and how long it took for your team to resolve it and bring their happiness back?
Yes. So we had a client, we still have the client, a very happy client, who was not getting his reports on time. So we have a monthly reporting process through which we tell them how things were with regard to the area we're helping them with. And it was both the quality of the reporting and the timing of the report. It was coming closer to 20th of the next month while he wanted this before 10th. And it was not as intuitive and easy to work with as we pride ourselves in. So there was a day when he stopped the weekly meeting and said, like, I have to get my report before 10th, and it has to be something which is improved. So that day, I said sorry to him very specifically. I canceled all my appointments for the next 3 hours. I built that report myself, sent to him to entire satisfaction of his, and then the template was used. Now, this is not what I'd like to do. I like to people to do what they do, the team to keep delivering what they deliver and improve that work. This was an exception where I really felt that I had failed as a leader and I had no choice but to drop everything and do this. Otherwise, we mostly will. So this was an extraordinary measure taken for a very special client, but typically it will be go back to a team, have analyze what's not happening right, we jig around the model, make sure that things can happen the way they should happen.
Right. So you mentioned to me before about your revenue targets for this coming year. You're looking for $7 to $8 million this year. That's a pretty big increase from 5.1 million last year. Did you do anything different to get this growth, or is it again coming from just more repeat business from your clients?
So it's a bit of an answer which you might not expect, but in full transparency, I must share with you, 2017 was probably the worst year in the history of our company. We got into too many things too quickly. We hired too many people in senior positions. We didn't spend enough time in either understanding if their aspirations and philosophy were as aligned to our organization as they need to be for someone to be a number 2 or 3 in a practice. And that led to a lot of revenue loss, a lot of loss overall. We didn't have a good year in terms of what we were trying to do. Our target for 2017 was $10 million. So at 5, we were really a disaster. That being said, we learned from our mistakes like any organization should. We fixed a lot of pieces. We let some people go. We cut out some business lines. We became more focused on our core competencies. And that's why, truth be told, if you had asked me in 2016, I would have said 2018 revenue will be about $25 million. So at 8, we are far behind our crazy targets. That's full confession.
Right. Okay. Well, still pretty good. It's a case of aiming for the stars and landing on the moon, right? It's still a good result.
That's true.
Yep. So, what's our outlook for your industry? How's it looking overall?
So we didn't spend time on defining per se what our industry is. We are primarily an advisory shop, but within that we have built significant diversification. So we have 3 major tranches of what we do. One is what we call Occams Advisory, which is a combination of our M&A and our consulting business. The second tranche is Occams Wealth, which deals with asset advisory in terms of where people should invest, in terms of tax advisory, both planning and managing, as well as we give guidance on insurance decisions for individuals and businesses. The third vertical that we are in is, we call it Occams Money, but that's got to do with financing needs of companies, including merchant options and other payment processing options. Now, in 2019, we plan to split Occams Advisory into Occams Capital, which will be investment banking business, and advisory into the consulting business. That's a strategic objective or a roadmap that we already have defined. Now, from where we see our industry is financial services. And I know some point you might ask, my ultimate dream is to be able to build a one-stop shop model for the middle market companies to come to us for all their financial services needs. I'm not a big fan of brokerage or retail banking, but otherwise for all the value-added financial services that people and businesses seek, we would like to be a provider at a very, very large scale. So that being the case, the outlook for the industry should be always good. When things are great, people want to invest, and things are bad, people want to cut losses. So if we are a full cycle and full circle advisor, then hopefully the outlook will always be good. I'm not immune to cycles. Like we had the longest bull run as of last week in the history of America. So someday things are going to get south. That being said, we really have to look at what we can do for our clients and not worry about the headwinds.
Right. Are there any factors at play that might be disrupting the advisory market?
So I can think of a couple. There have been a lot of progress in artificial intelligence arena. Now, we obviously are just scratching the surface, if at all, of what it can do for people. But if someday AI were to be evolved enough to track businesses as to what they do and have pre-programmed inputs where they're tripping and an auto course mechanism, then obviously our expertise might get challenged. The other area where this can happen is that there have been platforms built, and we have been working on building one of our own where you can have expertise on demand. So in terms of, as if it's like, you can simply go to site X or Y or Z and speak to somebody on one area for a few minutes or a few hours and work with that model. Now, the second one is action extension of what we do. I call it a disruption because people will start thinking of advisory business as a transactional business. It never can be. Advisory business has to be a relationship-based business. So AI and people trying to make it transactional are the two factors I worry about in terms of disrupting this, in the negative sense, not in the positive disruption sense.
Okay. For your competitors, what are your best competitors doing really well, and in your opinion, and what are they doing really poorly?
So one thing which I learned very well, even before I started my business, is that our competition is from many sources we can't imagine they is from. Because we do so many different things, we obviously compete against many different companies who are much larger or much smaller than we are. The people who are doing it well, I think in terms of three parts. So in terms of how they come across to the world, they come across as a very well-defined service offering. The reason why we have been moving to nuclear sites and branding efforts is to essentially land well with our prospective audience. So how they're received as a brand value, that's one thing which they do very well. The second to do very well is in terms of the client interaction. So from the time you make the first inquiry to you actually have somebody as an active client who has a problem and you troubleshoot through that. So the whole process, it has to be a predictable process of seeking service, getting service, being charged for it, and all those things. So the second point I'm making is about having a predictable service model to which people know what they're getting into and what to expect, what not to expect. We can do much better there, which we are not doing right now. Likewise, in terms of branding, we can do much better. The third part, obviously, is in terms of the internal processes. When companies are growing, the focus is on revenue and go. But unless you build internal processes to scale, it will someday have either tremors or will collapse. So those are three things which I believe some of our competition is doing very, very well. So A, how they are branding themselves, B, how predictable their service model is, and C, how robust their internal processes or internal management, the whole management internally is. It doesn't have to be a process. There could be any method. They should be highly scalable. Those three things we can do better.
Can you share a little bit about what internal processes that you have at Occams Advisory that allows you to scale?
So we divide our internal world into strategy, into HR, as we call it, human capital, into finance, into operations, into knowledge management, which is not a typical area of what people focus on, and last one is technology. So within that, we have tried to have things defined, documented, and delivered to everybody who participates in the process so people can access it as and when required. That being said, we had to several times innovate to get better at it. But in terms of the operating mechanism, we hyper focus on documenting what we do, how we do it, so that if things are not happening per expectations, the employee also understands that I was supposed to do A and not B. Unclear expectations of what is good is typically the reason why companies are not able to scale their internal infrastructure. So we really try to define what good is in writing, share with people in writing, so they actually can just follow that for baseline. If they want to improve and innovate from there, more power to them. But they definitely must come as good as what the baseline is. So long answer for a short question, but essentially document our desired workflow and share with internal people, while thinking that what happens if we have a 200% growth each month for next 2 years, how will we handle that? So we have, again, it's different for HR and finance and things like that, but we have tried to build structures at what number the next employee get hired. So if there's one word I can use, automation. So if I could predict that, for each area, we try to predict that if we have so much business, we need so many employees. If this happens and this person gets promoted, so people know what they're playing for, and the team knows as to when they say, okay, you know what, we're reaching here, we need to hire, or we need to train, or we need to do something else. So automate, document, share, give feedback, repeat.
Right. You mentioned before one of the key processes is documentation, sharing information, making sure expectations are set. I took a look at your profile, your Inc. 5000 profile. It says that you have 9 employees. And taking a look at the employees that I can find on your LinkedIn at your company, I see that they're scattered throughout the nation. So are your 9 employees remote workers working throughout the United States or the world? And if yes, what was your thoughts behind having a local team, a team local to you in your offices as opposed to having them throughout the world?
So that number obviously is, I can say, misleading, for a simple reason that Inc. magazine requires us to declare the employees, or the way I interpret this, as the employees on the day of application within the corporate entity which is participating. So while Occams Advisory benefits from the revenue stream of the entire group, it doesn't have the employee count of the entire group, because legally we only employed 9 people on that day when we applied. We have more than 20 employees in the US. Majority of them are in the Maryland office in Baltimore, where I work from. Then the rest are client-facing roles across the country. It's not a model which we really like to have per se. We would much rather have people in one office where everybody can freely interact. But this is more a commentary on how we have evolved than how we wanted to evolve. So like 150 employees in India, some of them have a LinkedIn profile, and we also have multiple corporate entities there. So even if they show up on LinkedIn, they don't show up as Occams Advisory employee. So it's a long answer to your short question, but we would like to have a single office. We would like to have homogeneity of culture and communication. But in this growth stage, we will have to work with what it takes to get there.
Okay. One last question for you, Anupam, or 2 last questions. I know your company works with small and medium-sized businesses. What's your definition of small and medium-sized businesses? And so that's the first question. And the second one is, for the listeners out there of this interview who do have small and medium-sized businesses, how can they best contact you?
So our preferred client size is revenue $10 million to, we say $1 billion, but we almost have no client who is more than $500 million. Our largest client is actually under $500 million. We had a client who was less than $1 billion, more than 500. So that's what we call, everybody defines them in different ways. But again, that's not technically correct. What I mean is that they are sliding, some people call it 5 million to 250, then 250 to a billion and all those things. We look at 10 to 500 million as our sweet spot. We absolutely welcome all inbound inquiries. The best way to reach out to us is to email us from our website, which is info@occamsadvisory.com. You are very welcome to directly email info@occamsadvisory.com. I get a lot of emails personally based on various media release or listings where my email was given out, but that process is slower than if it goes to info, which is read by multiple people. So as I said, all inbound queries are welcome. We are mostly very capable in areas of service industry. So any service company, we are much more able to help than companies who are in manufacturing or any other heavy industry. One last part is that we work with several international companies, but we do not work with any company which is in any way on OFAC list or any of those questionable lists. But otherwise, we're very happy to explore opportunities to work with any company anywhere in the world.
Okay, great. Thanks so much for joining us today, Anupam, and sharing how you grew your company so fast.
Thank you.
We've been speaking with Anupam Satyasheel, the CEO of Occams Advisory, about his company's rapid growth. For interviews with other fast-growing companies or to learn how we can increase your firm's high-ticket sales through automation, visit Eversprint.com.